Therefore, it is possible that there will be messengers after Muhammad. In Surah 7, verse 35, it says, O children of Adam, when messengers come to you, reciting my revelations to you, those of you who believe are the successful ones. This is Surah 7, verse 35. Obviously, it is for people after the Quran. As a matter of fact, the verse begins by saying, O children of Adam. So as long as there are children of Adam on this earth, this verse is valid. If messengers are coming after Muhammad, what do they look like? What will a messenger look like after Muhammad? Just think of any human being. What are his characters? You think he'll be walking on water or walking in the air or coming with 3 angels on each side or something? He'll be just one of us, just a human being. Some people came. I want to answer the question why. Why send a messenger? Why does God send a messenger? Why not just go in the same way that people have been going? They've been reading the Quran, following the Quran. Well, one important element is the test, because of this covenant that we made with God. What are we going to do if a messenger of God comes and says, worship God alone and forget about the human beings, Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, or anybody? You must devote yourself totally to God alone. One who will preach the Quran, God's proven scriptures. What are we going to do? Are we going to scoff at him? Are we going to help him morally? Are we going to rally around him? What are we going to do? A test. Another test is the test of ego. If the Quran repeats, they said, oh, he just wants to be better than we are. He wants to be a leader. And this is emphasized throughout the Quran. You're going to find some verses in here. And there's, in Surah 17, verse 94, it says, what prevented many people from believing was that they said, human God sent a human being to be a messenger? And in Surah 64, verses 5 and 6, I'm going to read them for you. Did you not receive the news of those who disbelieved in the past? They suffered the consequences of their decision and deserved painful retribution. Why? This is because their messengers went to them with clear revelations, but they said, quote, human beings to guide us? Thus they disbelieved and turned away. God does not need them. So it's a tremendous test to accept somebody who says he's a messenger of God. There's an ego here. We're required to kill the ego. And this applies to all of us. One of the requirements in the Quran. The egotistic person will resent anything like this and will be deprived. And God says in the Quran, I will divert from my revelations those who are arrogant. سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض. I will send them away. God will actively send them away. So this is something that we have to kill, the ego. So many people came and said they were messengers of God. Baha'u'llah was one of them. And Ghulam Ahmad of Pakistan said he was a messenger of God. And Joseph Smith, the Mormon leader, said he was a messenger of God. But God made it mandatory that a messenger comes with proof, certain signs. Moses brought all kinds of proofs. Salih brought proofs. Jesus came with signs that he is authorized and sent by God. And on that difficult day, a few days ago, when I'm going to give you all the details I'm not going to be mysterious and say I was told this and that and leave it hanging. I'm going to give you, everything is going to be wide open in front of you, and I will tell you exactly what happened in time, if the time doesn't help us now. But this reminds me of the fellow, you've heard this, I told some of you at least this before, but this fellow was the most curious person in town. And he would just ask questions, he'd always ask questions. And one time he was sitting in the bar, or the pub, or whatever the place is, and there comes in this man with one leg, and he sits next to him. And this very curious person, of course, is curious, you know, how did you lose your leg? He wants to know. And the man with one leg knows that he is the most curious person in town. He just died to know, how did this fellow lose his leg? So he told, the man with the one leg told him, the curious fellow, he told the curious fellow, I will tell you on one condition. And he said, anything, just tell me, anything, just tell me what to do and I will do it, just tell me anything. He said, you ask only one question and you don't ask any questions after that. He said, okay, I'll do it, just tell me, how did you lose your leg? He said, it was bitten. So I'm sure that curious guy died on the spot because he couldn't ask any more questions. So I'm not going to be mysterious with you. I'm going to tell you everything gradually. But on that difficult day, when I realized that I must announce, I mean, I chickened out for 8 years now. I needed some signs, and I was shown, I had some signs, but I was shown a couple of additional signs on that day. Now I will share with you some of the signs that will assure all of us. Now the first sign, of course, is the mathematical miracle of the Quran, which is very simple. And people should have seen it in the last 1400 years. Literally thousands of scholars looked in the Quran and counted all its words, its letters, its vowels, those signs, little signs. They counted everything in the Quran. But they never came up with the mathematical composition of the Quran. Bismillah, 19 letters, the number of surahs, 19 times 6, the first revelation, 19 words, the last revelation, 19 words. All these are simple things that they should have discovered. But God reserved this for a person called Rashad, as we see in the index of the Quran, page 320, which was printed 1 year before I was born. That index, it's a comprehensive index. And on page 320, you'll see that the root word Rashada is mentioned 19 times. And this is something that came to us from Turkey. I didn't discover it. It was discovered and sent to us, as most of you know. Now, the additional things. Now, I want to give you a piece of new information that shows you the awesome miracle of the Quran that was reserved until this time. The word God, Allah, in the Quran is mentioned 2,698 times. When you take every verse in the Quran where you see the word Allah, every verse from verse 1 of Surah 1, and you add the numbers of verses, the total is 118,123. 118,123. These are the numbers of verses wherever you see the word God in here. It's awesome. Because not a single verse was transplanted from its place. Not a single verse was changed. And not a single word Allah was dropped out or added in the Quran. So this is an awesome miracle that was reserved for, God knew in advance who is going to be fortunate enough or blessed with releasing this information. Now, if you add all the verses in the surahs of the 19 Rashida and The last name also is involved. This is very embarrassing to me, but I have to tell you this and share it with you. But Khalifa is mentioned in the Quran twice. When you add all the surahs and verses, the total is 1,369, which is 19 times 77. You add all the surahs and verses where Rashada and Khalifa are mentioned. Well, I was not content with that. I'm greedy. I wanted specific Rashad Khalifa, specific Rashad Khalifa. And sure enough, if you look up, the Rashad mentioned twice, Rashad. This is the way my name is written down. It is mentioned in the Quran twice, in Surah 40, verse 29 and verse 38. The Khalifa, they're twice in the Quran. One of them is a bad one, and the other is a good one. Okay. The bad Khalifa is Satan, which is in Surah 2, and the human Khalifa, which is specifically mentioned in the Quran in reference to David, the prophet, one of our favorite prophets, the Psalms. And this Khalifa is mentioned in Surah 38, verse 26. So if you add the surah and verses connected with Rashad and the human Khalifa, the total is 171, 19 times 9. So in other words, you look at every angle and you can see that the signs are connected with the mathematical code.